Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Wednesday, November the 12th, 2025, and today we have a special treat for you as I jumped on the phone with the great Yoko Takemura to chat about the farm that she runs with her partner Alex Carpenter called Assawaga Farm in Connecticut. But also, Yoko compares Japanese agriculture, where she travels almost every year, to the U.S. She talks about a few growing tips for Japanese crops and other crops from Asia. She explains a really interesting cover cropping approach and more. So let's do it. Yoko Takemura, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great to have you. I always look forward to these chats. Maybe, though, for those of our listenership and our viewership who don't know your work, could you tell us a little bit about the farm and maybe like markets and scale, location, those sorts of things?
Absolutely. So I co-own and manage Assawaga Farm with my partner Alex Carpenter. We are located in Putnam, Connecticut, which is in the northeast corner of the state. We're right by Rhode Island and Massachusetts, so if you can imagine, like right up in the northeast corner. So back in 2016, we were looking for land, and we found this property on Realtor.com, and we saw the land, and it kind of checked all the boxes. Honestly, a bald eagle flew over. Maybe we talked about this story in our first episode of the No-Till Growers podcast, but yeah, there's just these signs of like, this is your property kind of thing. And so we just felt like this is it. So we purchased it in early 2016. It's 22 acres in total. About 5 of them are open and the rest are wooded or wetlands. And it was raw land, so literally nothing on the property. It was just a blank canvas for us to envision our farm. So we spent 2 years kind of preparing the land. We built this house that we live in. Well, this is actually the second floor of the barn that we built. So the first floor is used for, wash pack, storage. Our farm stand is in one part of the barn. So we built this, we put a driveway in, our septic field, our greenhouse. We got power out here. So there was just a lot of infrastructure projects going on in the first 2 years. And then by 2018, we were ready to start our season. So back then we went to 2 farmers markets in Boston. So one was in Somerville and the other one was in Brookline. We dropped the Somerville one as soon as COVID hit, just because it was managed very poorly at that time. And so that's when we pivoted and started our farm stand instead. And that's been our marketing outlets ever since. So we have our weekly farm stand on Saturdays, and we have the Brookline Farmers Markets on Thursday. And that's basically from May to Thanksgiving. And so, yeah, our first season was 2018, so we're just finishing our 8th season here. We have 3 people helping us who is on our crew. We've got 2 full-time crew members who start from around March, April, go up until Thanksgiving. And our part-timer is 3 days a week, and that position starts around April and goes until September. And yeah, we're really excited because for the first time ever, we'll have our full crew return next year. So we're really looking forward to that.
Did you say, I know you said 5 acres open. Did you say how many are actually in cultivation?
Oh, right. Okay, so we are growing on about an acre. We just added a high tunnel at the beginning of last year, but basically we haven't really expanded our footprint much beyond what we had in our second year. So yeah, when I say an acre, I mean like the beds as well as the paths between it, but not like the bigger kind of paths. around the field, if that makes sense. So
Because you
it's a
have like hedges and stuff too, right?
yeah, so not including like our hedgerows, yeah,
Driveway
just,
and
like,
that sort of stuff.
yeah, exactly, like bigger walkways.
And then maybe just talk for a minute about your production. You all do a variety, it seems like, of different no-till practices and low-till practices. Can you talk a little bit about like what your, I don't know, sort of soil management style is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question.
I know, yeah, it's a hard one
Um,
anymore.
and it's certainly changed from that time that you interviewed us on the No Till Grows podcast. But we've been no till from the beginning. We got inspiration from Brian O'Hara before we even started our farm, so we were very like dead set on being no till from the beginning. We've been making our own compost for I think about 5 years now. But this year we've got a grant last year actually to build a like a proper static aerated system. So it's on, we poured some concrete. It's got some, bays with air channels underneath that comes up through the pile, and we have an air mover that switches on for 5 minutes every 30 minutes. So it's really nice compared to our old system, since we don't have to flip the pile twice to get the whole pile heated. So it really eliminated a crazy amount of manual labor as well as just like time spent doing that. So now we're making a ton of compost, and we just started applying the compost from that system last week. Yeah, making our own compost is really important for us. We wanted to kind of close the loop on, our inputs. And also, we know Jackson Roulette had problems with purchased compost, and sometimes it's contaminated with herbicides. And so we just, from our experience purchasing compost too, sometimes it's loaded with trash or whatever. So we grew really skeptical of purchasing outside compost. So it was really important for us to start making our own. And I feel like we've really, succeeded on that front. And we started incorporating cover crops pretty early on. At this point, we do so much cover cropping that probably most of the beds get at least 2 cover crops in addition to a cash crop. Some beds get even 3, but we do a lot of cover cropping here, and the way we do it is a little bit unique, I think. I don't think I've seen it anywhere else, but basically we broadcast our cover crop mix, so we do anywhere from 8 to 10 species or so, different times of the season, and we then cover it with our hay mulch. And that's it. And then it just kind of sprouts and comes up through the mulch. So it just kind of makes cover cropping very simple here. There's no need to walk down with a seeder, go up and down the bed, nothing like that. So for us, it works really well, and we love cover cropping here.
With that cover crop, like, just so I understand, you're sort of talking about like you have an empty bed and you're broadcasting the cover crop on top, and then you're laying your hay mulch on top, which it should be said probably that this is still that marsh hay, right?
Salt marsh hay, yep.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think, I wasn't familiar with it until I spoke with you all.
Right. So yeah, we use, our hay is salt marsh hay. There's a guy up in like north of Boston. I think there's only one guy left who does it. So he's been acquiring all the like kind of other farmers, previous farmers, like acreages, and his son is now stepping in to take his place. So it's great. So the special, when it comes to doing the cover crop system that I just mentioned, it doesn't really matter what you use as mulch. It can be straw mulch, it can be regular hay mulch. We just happen to have access to hay salt marsh hay, so it's just easy for us. We have a relationship with the guy who cuts it, but there is a huge benefit in that because it's salt marsh hay. Even though it contains wheat seeds, it doesn't germinate unless there's, they have access to salt water. So in that way, we don't have any wheat seeds germinate, which is, very helpful. But also, we do feel like it contains some more minerals than just your regular hay mulch, just because, even just smelling the mulch, it kind of smells of the ocean. So I feel like it contains maybe sea minerals as well, which is nice.
Like, how thick are you putting on this hay mulch when you're putting it down?
Yeah, so if you look at our fields, almost every single bed is mulched. The only ones that aren't mulched are direct sown crops like carrots and turnips and radishes. So it's just easier for us to just maintain one like standard for like in terms of the mulch depth, and it's basically thick enough that it's serving a purpose to protect the soil underneath, and for it not to just decompose really quickly and disappear, but also not too thick that you can't have the cover crops germinate and come up through it. And also we found that back then when we first started applying mulch, when we did it really thick, it did seem like the rodents really liked to that build nests underneath. And it's also because we mulch every bed, it means that, say, if we need to sow carrots in a bed that is mulched, we do remove the mulch from that bed. So we get a leaf rake and just like rake it to the side. We collect it, we put it in we get those Vermont compost sling bags, so we use that to kind of like temporarily hold our mulch. But basically, we are, it's coming on and off and on and off. So honestly, if it was any thicker, you're having to deal with even more mulch. And so anyway, it's like we have just this perfect kind of density of hay on our beds.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, I think you and I could talk about cover crops all day long. So we'll save that maybe for another time, because I love that conversation. But for the moment, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will talk about some specialty crops. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand say they grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand is your business coach and assistant, helping to sell out, save time, and grow smarter with real data from real farms, shaping websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that run smoothly. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/no-till and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. Today's episode is also brought to you by High Mowing Organic Seeds. High Mowing Organic Seeds is celebrating their 30th anniversary with 47 fabulous new varieties for 2026. Highlights include downy mildew-resistant cucumbers, a poppy that looks like cotton candy, and 12 new tomato varieties. High Mowing offers more than 750 varieties of certified organic, non-GMO vegetables, flowers, herbs, and cover crops, all trialed for optimal performance in organic growing systems. High Mowing has the professional quality seeds and supportive grower reps to get you from seed to harvest. Visit highmowingseeds.com to request a catalog and use code 26NOTILL, all one word, 26NOTILL, for 10% off your order of $100 or more. That's highmowingseeds.com. All right, back to the show. All right, Yoko, as you may know, we like to take questions from our Patreon members, and this one I've actually been sitting on for a little bit, maybe too long, but here goes. This one is from Patreon member Kim, who writes, quote, "Hi, Jesse, can you do a series or an interview with someone who grows Asian vegetables such as Napa cabbage, garlic chive, bok choy, ong choy, gai choy, or loofah? I'm interested in their growing conditions and pest management. I've been trying to grow Asian greens and have a low level of success outdoors. They grow well in hydroponics, but easily bolted or have lots of pests. I'm a bit better at growing them every year, but still a long way to go, and would like some guidance on making the experience of growing these veggies easier," end quote. All right, so I know this is a giant topic, but something that stands out here to me is there's a lot of delicate brassicas in there, but what say you? What sort of comes to mind when you hear that question?
I don't think there's anything inherently more difficult about growing Asian varieties or Asian vegetables. It might be that the seeds were grown in a very different climate to, where this farmer is, but that can be said about any seeds. So, and honestly, I feel like there's a lot of vegetables on our farm too, where maybe we struggled growing it initially, but that as your soil gets better and better, that, your vegetables also grow better and better. But having said that, there are definitely cycles of like pests that we go through too. Our biggest pest is flea beetles, and our first 2 or 3 years we didn't have any flea beetles on our farm. So I look back and I just think, oh, we didn't even need to cover any of our beds with insect netting or road cover. It was like that amazing. And now we have a ton of flea beetles. We literally just sprayed some nematodes this morning for a few hours, so on our whole farm. So that we struggle with. But like, for instance, I think about our like Napa cabbages. We used to have a really big issue with earwigs. And, I would harvest them, and so many earwigs would just be between the layers or just kind of crawl out of it. And there was a point, I think it was at least 2 years ago, that I almost wanted to give up on it. And we've never given up on any vegetables before, but this one I was like, you know what, we are not getting any good, harvests. But Alex would not let me, so we kept growing it. And it might have been just as soon as the following year, not a single earwig. And currently, still not a single earwig. So I don't know what happened, but definitely there's cycles of like different pests that we go through. So I wouldn't let that deter you from, let this farmer deter them from growing these vegetables. There's nothing that's like harder to grow than others, I feel like.
One of the things I'd love to hear about is you grow a lot of specialty crops, Japanese crops in particular. Could you talk about some of those and some of like your production with those and how it works, or some things you've learned?
Yeah, I actually listed it down because I thought I'd forget some of them. So we grow everyone I think grows bok choy, but we also grow komatsuna and mizuna to the full size. So
when you say full size, you mean like head size for the Mizuna and the, what's the other one? The
Komatsuna?
Komatsuna? Yeah.
So yeah, just like bok choy, we let them get to its, it takes about the same amount of time as bok choy. And yep, we kind of rubber band bunch them just like we do bok choy. So yeah, we have it in the same cycles as bok choy basically. And we do shungiku, which is a chrysanthemum greens. We used to do that in the spring also, but we only do it in the fall now because in the spring it does bolt. So whereas in the fall you can get repeated harvest for a long time. It's interesting. So that in Japan there's 2 types of shungiku. So there's one where it's kind of like kale, where you can harvest it every single week, multiple times a week until it the frost kills it. And then the other type is you kind of grow like arugula, so you direct sow kind of densely, and you just get these kind of like sort of babyer leaves. So we do the first type where we, let each plant kind of grow bigger, and we harvest the they have a lot of side shoots, so you harvest them and bunch them. And one time we asked one of our farmer friends in Japan what their most profitable crop is, and they said shungiku, because it's kind of like kale, where you can just harvest it like almost forever. Unless, here obviously the frost kills it eventually, but it can go on. It will probably go on until Thanksgiving here. We're in 6B, I think so. Herbs, in terms of herbs, we do shiso, and we actually used to do a lot of garlic chives. We'll get back on that next year. I kind of forgot about it. It's a perennial, so it's more difficult to like actually integrate into our annuals. So we moved it to the hedgerow, and it kind of got forgotten. So, but shiso is a huge one. It's very profitable. Herbs are just very profitable in general, but initially with shiso, we pack them just leaves. So you just pluck the leaves off, and we do, about a dozen in a bag, in like one of our salad mix bags, and it's like it sells really well for us. And then eventually we do start bunching it towards the end of the season because it starts to flower. But the flowers are also edible. You can kind of like thyme, you can slide it off the stem, and it's really nice sprinkled into soy sauce or sprinkled into salads or whatever, but the buds are really good. So we use it right up to the end. And if you want to, you could also hang the plant upside down right before the frost hits and dry it up, and it's also good dried. So That's the herbs. We do edamame, which is huge. Huge in terms of like, it's just everybody. I feel like we developed our customers like, fondness for them because we've been growing it from year one, but I feel like every year people just get crazier and crazier about them. So we just like cannot grow enough. And I would say edamame is our like number one, like animals love to eat it. So if they're going to go for anything, it's edamame, whether it be voles, rats, woodchucks, they just love all of it. The leaves, the pods, everything. So
wow, that's surprising to me. I don't know why. I mean, biggest issues with legumes is usually like, when it's young, obviously everything will hit it just because it's tender. But yeah, the mature ones, like them getting the pods is really interesting. Or I think of like bean beetles, right? That's like one that
yeah, it's weird.
Them,
it's like, yeah, they don't go after our beans or peas. Nothing goes after our beans and peas, honestly. But edamame, it's like, especially when they're young and they're just planted, they're so vulnerable to like, because a vole can just take down an edamame plant very easily.
Yeah.
Kind of factor in some loss from that towards the end of the season. Everyone does this, but hakurei turnips and daikon and Napa cabbage. One thing I would say about turnips is turnips is huge in Japan. It's farmers grow so many different varieties and they're so beautiful. We used to grow this one variety called hinona, which is really pretty. It's like a carrot, so it's very long and narrow, and it's half of it is white and half of it is purple. And it's just really stunning. But I think just over the years we've like simplified our farm for the sake of like our employees as well as just less things to manage, I guess. So there tends to be kind of a simplification of like, varietals. So we used to do a lot of different turnips and now we just do the hakurei. So
yeah. In so doing, have you kind of developed a market of people who really clamor for those types of vegetables? Or was it like, I don't know, I guess my question is sort of, did you create the market or did the market find you? Or is it kind of a combination?
So you mean in terms of like just any of these?
I mean, in terms of your customer base, any of them, yeah. I mean, some of these, like I struggle to sell Napa cabbage, even when it's like beautiful.
It's really interesting actually with Napa because we go to Brookline and Boston, which we knew had a large Japanese population. So we didn't think we would have an issue selling, sort of slightly less common things there. But our farm stand, I did think, are we going to be able to sell? It definitely doesn't sell as well as the more uncommon stuff. It doesn't sell as well here. But Napa's, I mean, people buy it up here. I'm surprised. I mean, a lot of people like to pickle, make kimchi with them. It's not hard to sell at all for some reason, even in the local market.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, even with some of those more obscure ones, I think, even turnips, we always struggled a little bit with that one. But
turnips too, it's similar to Napa, where I think there's definitely more people discovering turnips for the first time, like the hakurei turnips, but it sells really well here. It sells really, really well.
That's cool. Speaking of Japanese farming and those sorts of things, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Japanese farming versus American farming. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Marble Seed. The Marble Seed Organic Farming Conference attracts a wide range of regenerative and organic farmers for 3 days of skill development and community building. Farmer Drew Kramer said, "Going to Marble Seed was so invigorating at a time when I needed it most. I picked up tools I'm already using." The conference is the final week in February in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Early registration opens December 4th at conference.marbleseed.org. That's conference.marbleseed.org. All right, back to the show. All right, so you and Alex take regular trips back and forth to Japan, and I was hoping maybe you could share some insight into what you've sort of learned about agriculture there as it compares to agriculture here and those sorts of things.
Yeah. I do go home every year. I have a lot of family in Japan. Alex hasn't been able to actually join me for the last few years just because he's been so busy. But yeah, there's just so many differences. I was just talking to one of my crew members who is Japanese on her thoughts on this question, and she has some good ones. For instance, the organic kind of scene has not developed as much as the U.S. or nowhere near it, and so I feel like the prevalence of like organic is not as as large as here, and also goes hand in hand with like farmers markets have not really developed there much. So it's an important means for a lot of farmers in the US to sell their vegetables, but in Japan there's just, if there are farmers markets, it's just not well attended. It's just not, very not a lot of vendors, not a lot of produce. It's not the scene of bounty. Like I feel like, bountiful harvest kind of thing. I don't know. I'm explaining this really poorly, but so what happens is a lot of small scale diversified vegetable farms in Japan, what they do is they offer like a CSA. Over there it's kind of called vegetable boxes. And because the delivery system in Japan is so good, what happens is most farmers just pack it up in a box and they just get it delivered anywhere in the country. Japan is kind of like the size of California, so you can have somebody really far away be a CSA member of a farm, and so it's not that you can't necessarily go and buy vegetables from like your local farm, but they probably wouldn't have like a presence at a farmer's market or something, most likely. Also, vegetables just sold anywhere in Japan, they just look really nice. They put a lot of emphasis on having things look really clean, really like no deformities or anything. It's just all perfect, right? And it's also usually wrapped in plastic. But they do a lot of grading, so only the best kind of ends up at the markets, And so it's actually similar to, we had a British couple come and visit us last year. It's just the vegetables sold in stores look so good that it doesn't motivate people to go and seek out like the best vegetables at the farmers markets, which kind of happens in our area. Like if you go down to Stop and Shop, right down the road, the vegetables just look really sad, and I don't think we as farmers realize how much of a benefit that is to like the farmers, because that makes you want to go seek out like the freshest, like nicest vegetables from your local farms. Yeah. So I think in that way too, it's like the consumers don't really think of it as like, oh, I need to go and seek out a local farm.
Just to follow up on that idea of like anybody in Japan could grow for anybody else in, within the country. So like, it seems like for me, just what I would guess is that leads to more sort of specialization. Would that be accurate? Like, are there more just specialized farms who do this like one thing really, really well?
So that is actually most of agriculture in Japan. I think this is how the government kind of set it up way back when, but they found what vegetables grow the best in different regions in Japan. So there's a lot of farmers, like vegetable farmers, that grow one thing. Like there could be a region that grows like cucumbers really well. So it's like monocropped for cucumbers. And then they send their vegetables to a hub and then it gets distributed. So that's like a lot of agriculture in Japan. But what I'm talking about is like small, organic, like diversified farms are typically selling their vegetables through these boxes that are sent all over the country.
Okay.
Yeah. Other big things are the land is mostly free, but very fragmented. So a lot of farms do have to like go to this one plot to, and then there might be another plot 30 minutes away and another one 20 minutes away. So it's very fragmented, but in a way, I know that some farms do benefit from having different climates or microclimates, or being able to rotate their crops. And so I think they've just accepted that as their, way of life. Also, they have very limited access to seeds, especially organic seeds. It's not as well developed as here. So what happens is they tend to save their own seeds, which is great. Like one farm that I always visit when I go home is, they save 70% of their seeds. So, and we've grown some of their safe seeds before, and they're always just so vigorous. And they can access like really old like heirloom seeds from a seed bank, and they're constantly always like trying to revive like traditional seeds from that area. So it's really cool. They're always trying to discover new greens and things, and bring back its history, and share that with the community. So that's really cool. Let's see, the pests are very different. So they have to deal with, of course, deer, but on top of that, monkeys, wild boars, and bears. So I feel like we're really lucky in the US that we mostly just have to worry about deer in terms of like bigger, larger animals. We've driven past like gardens that was like being ransacked by like 8 monkeys,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Monkeys, yeah.
I can imagine that being the worst pest.
Yeah, because they're very smart. I think back then farmers, guns aren't really allowed in Japan, but you can have these like kind of fake, guns that like make the sound, and it frightens them for the first time. But then obviously they learn. It's like, oh, that's just a sound that they make. Like, it's not dangerous. So then they just keep, going back to, whatever, destroying gardens. So
that is so brutal.
And wild boars, they're huge and they are insanely powerful. So one time we visited a farmer who had these really like steel like fences, like, very well built fences, and it's just like peeled back like a tuna can, and then there's a crater in the middle of his field where the boar just like dug all the soil. And they're just really destructive. And then of course, I don't know if you've heard the news, but bear attacks have been insane this year. 14 people have already died since April. So, which is kind of strange because, you think about bears or any kind of animal that's coming into like human, areas. You think that it's because their habitat is being, taken over, or it's like diminishing. But I think in Japan it's the opposite. There's less and less people in Japan, especially in the rural areas. So I feel like their habitats are expanding, but they're still coming into, where humans live, and just becoming more and more bold, like entering houses, entering supermarkets, killing farmers. It's
Wait, what kind of bears are we talking about?
So in the mainland, it's black bears, and actually brown bears up in Hokkaido, which is the northern island. But it's these black bears.
Wow.
They're like typically, omnivores. They're kind of like the black bears around here, but somehow they're just becoming, less, I guess, scared of humans. I don't think they go out of their way to attack a human, but it's just the cases are rising, and the National Guard has been called upon, and it's getting to be kind of crazy.
Wow.
But we're also the bears are also coming towards the eastern side of Connecticut. So we found 2 black bears in our driveway earlier this season, pretty large ones too. So they're here, and we'll see when they, I don't know, try to get into our fields. It hasn't happened yet, but.
Wow. Yeah. I just recently read a thing about how grizzlies are becoming more of an issue on farms in Montana. And I think I did a whole segment about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were getting. Have you all looked into getting a dog for bear protection or?
No. Yeah, I think we're okay here.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think the black bears are. I mean, I think they are slowly getting used to humans, which is not a good thing. But right now they're still afraid of humans, so they see us and they just run away.
Was there anything else in there that you thought was worth a mention?
It is interesting. So one of my good friends that we visit every year, so they obviously see what we are doing, and they've tried to implement some of the, kind of the no-till practices that we do here. And they've been using a lot of tarps, but I think they haven't seen as much of benefit to it. I think it's because their fields have been used for so many, generations, and I think the annual seed bank is just insane. Because when we tarped our fields, at least it was an old hay field, and it was like mostly perennials, and we tarped that. But I think it's a different story when you tarp a field that's been growing a lot of annual vegetables for many, many, many years, and you tarp that for a year, because just the annual weed seeds, they're still going to be there. Do you know what I mean? So they just haven't found any benefit to the tarping that I thought they would.
I don't know, maybe one explanation for that is different weeds require different levels of light to germinate. So sometimes tarping doesn't work on certain varieties of, like, say, pigweed, because it's a really shallow germinator. So any amount of disturbance will just bring the next layer up. Or there are light sensitive weeds as well that just won't germinate if it's dark. They just don't bother. So then when you pull that tarp off, you've cleared out all their competition, and they're like, all right, let's go. So that could also be part of it too. It's just the different varieties of weeds.
Right. Well, we've always noticed how probably the biggest disturbance on our farm is digging potatoes. And even when we dig potatoes, there's no weeds that come up. And I wonder if it's also the thing where our soil is a little bit more, like on the fungal side, and although there are seeds, they're just not germinating because it's just not the right environment for them to germinate, or what. But that's
and you also you can't rule out either, like, seed predation. Under tarps here, like, the seed predation is pretty heavy, actually. You get a lot of mice, you get a lot of, like, different little things that just eat a lot of seeds. So if you do that for long enough, and then maybe in your situation where you have such healthy soil that you just have a lot of life in there, that's like, oh, a seed, good, take that. Mm-hmm. So that happens enough, at lower enough levels that things can travel down there that, eventually it reduces your seed bank, I would think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yoko, this has been an absolute pleasure. I love chatting with you. Hopefully we can do it again. Obviously my camera switched to here, so if you're wondering why I'm looking down here now. But thank you so much for coming on. I love our chats.
Yay, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Yoko as much as I did. I will link Assawaga Farm in the show notes, and we will actually have Alex on at a later date to chat about that compost system that Yoko mentioned. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors, and if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support our work ahead of the holidays. You better hurry up. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of November, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Bill Price, William Wiley Madrow, Dwight Yoder, Lynn Tompkins, Steve Hurlbut, Rebecca S., Lee Shelley, Brian McCarthy, Larry Shepard, Marsh and Cindy, Chris Mann, Richard Gould, Norsk Guard Farm, Sue Rowland, Thomas Van Wart, Tyler Lloyd, Andrea Fronti, Tobias Deerdorf, Toss Mann, Cedric Reed, DP, Kat Brannigan, Little Row Farms, Hank Zecca, Ashley Sharp, Jill Crosby, Madison, Scott Roser, Laura Britton, Alberto Diaz, Peter Broad, Jason Ruel, Earth Care Farmer Jane Murner, Meredith Light of Granite Springs Farm, Grown Up Farm, Bob and Ann Patton of Hexhamshire Organics, Jared Kirst of Rivendell Farm, and Fiona and Donnie of Firefly Farm. Huge shouts to all of you for supporting us in whatever way that you can. All right, so as you will remember in this week's story, ex-Governor Ginger has discovered a new plant on her farm and has asked an ecologist friend to come check it out and see if that ecologist friend can help Ginger identify what it is. And when the ecologist gets there, she tells Ginger that she has no idea what the plant is, but she takes some pictures and samples and sends it off to a colleague and says she will get back to her. But a few weeks pass and nothing. Meanwhile, the plant keeps growing. Ginger calls the ecologist but can't get a hold of her. Ginger just assumes she's being ghosted, and she contacts some other people that she met when she was governor, because you meet a lot of people, and more people come, they take samples, and then basically they disappear. Now, Ginger had just recently heard this story about this frog that was basically zombifying people in the South. So she was a little concerned. So she wondered why. What is happening here? Surely this is not the exact same story, and it isn't. But that is for tomorrow on The Power Plant. Or maybe that was already the name of one of these stories. No idea. But anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you then. Bye.